since we were talking about the Solomon Islands, many people watching may remember Daniel Soidani, the former premier of Solomon Islands, a lighter province who essentially got purged by the corrupt pro-Beijing prime minister we were talking about because he didn't want to go along with being pro-Beijing. We helped him raise funds to fly to D.C. to talk to Congress, and he's now back in the Solomon Islands. Can you give us the latest?
Yes. Thank you to China Uncensored, China Unscripted Nation for making that possible. He, while he was in D.C., he testified before the Congressional Executive Committee on China, Commission on China. He spoke to members of Congress. He spoke at think tanks, and he really helped people understand what was going on the ground. And he then went to Canada, where he spoke to members of Parliament there, and then he was in Australia, where he did some more think tank engagement. And he just recently went back home after 6 months on the road, 6 months away from his family. I mentioned I was in Solomon's recently, and there at the same time as the U.S. congressional delegation was there. And the two members of Congress who were on that delegation, Congressman Dr. Neil Dunn and Congressman Amata Radewagan, were two of the members of Congress who had met with him and who had also, I don't know if you remember this, but his initial visa application to the U.S. was denied. And then Congress wrote letters asking, why have you denied a visa to this man who may be the first person in the democratic world to have had his seat taken away by the federal government for not recognizing the One China policy, or China's version of the One China policy? So they went to Solomon's and they met his family, and the family of Celsus Telefilu, who I think you've also interviewed, who's an political expert on Solomon's, who's traveling with him. It was really hard to meet his family because they are just wonderful people, and they haven't seen their dad in months and months, and they know what he's doing is important, but they really missed him. And as much as they missed him, I think he missed them even more. And so he finally went home, and I think it was really and there was a lot of concern about whether he'd be arrested at the airport or not. And he was greeted at the airport with traditional greeting with dancers and singers and a lot of friends, and no arrests. But we're keeping a very close eye on this because it is a persistent threat, and there may be elections coming up. Legally, there's supposed to be elections coming up, which is one of the reasons why they went back. And we're starting to see very kind of odd activity. Like they're in the phase now of having to register to vote, and you have to go back to your village to vote. As Solomon's is big, and it consists of a lot of islands. This is the site of the Battle of Guadalcanal, Iron Bottom Sound, Tulagi, and some politicians seem to have enough money to charter entire boats to bring their supporters back to the villages to register them, whereas some who may not have that kind of funding don't. So we're seeing these little playing of elements of the political system already, and if there is an election, we're months and months away. That involve unusual funding sources. But he's gone back, and I know he's very grateful for all you've done. And it, I think, was a lifeline for people who are fighting for democracy in Solomon's.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. It would be amazing if he could be elected prime minister.
I think so. I think he's always been just a local guy. He was elementary school teacher, elementary school principal, and he just wants to serve mostly his local community. So when we've talking about this, but the thing that he wants is like just a health center for his people. Like the demands are so minimal. What they want is so basic. And he doesn't want to be the prime minister of the country. He doesn't want, grand. He just wants his people to be okay. And there are a lot of people like that all over. Personally, I think Celsus Telefilu, who you had on the show, is likely to run at the national level. And he has worked at the prime minister in the PMO, and I think he's more interested in national level politics. But there are so many good people who are fighting very, very big fights, but for their community. And that's for their family. It's back to family again. And their view of extended family. And that's something that the Chinese Communist Party just is kryptonite. It's kryptonite to them, just like faith is. There's the three things. There's faith, family, and freedom. All of them undermine the operational rationale of the Chinese Communist Party, and all of them are going back to India. Are fine in India, a country that is now bigger than China in terms of population. But even in the villages of Solomon Islands, that's what people are willing to fight for. So as these communities that value faith, family, and freedom find each other through things like the G20, but also just through more of these bilateral engagements, like you see with India going to the Pacific Islands or the Philippines going to a military conference talking about what they're doing, you might start to get this kind of ground level knitting together of resilience that can be bolstered by the bigger powers like the U.S. Definitely would be helpful. I think they're going to just try to do it on their own regardless. So that was. I'm particularly optimistic this week because the G20 went so well. But if we have the same conversation in another week, it might be a little bit different. We can talk about Canada.
Well, yeah, that's definitely.
Sorry.
I think we're probably out of time to talk about Canada. We'll just say it's bad. But yeah, I think the message I'm going to walk away with this is it's very optimistic. No country or people are truly lost to the evils of communism. Not even the people of China itself. There's plenty of people in mainland China who also want to be rid of that, fundamentally anti-human authoritarian force. And all it takes is the right people in the right positions standing up, doing what's right, and promoting these traditional values: faith, family, freedom. That's all it takes. It can be won. Canada's lost.
I just have to mention that, we have a prime minister that is not very popular at the moment in India. In fact, it's been more than just a moment. And his plane broke down when he tried to leave the G20. So he got stuck in India for an extra 2 days. There's a question about, just who benefits from Canada's plane breaking down and keeping our prime minister stuck in India for an extra 2 days. So if you want to play the fun conspiracy theory game, I'll leave you with that, and you can put it in the comments. Why did Trudeau's plane break down in India?
Must have been the gremlins. Gremlins are very tiny and short. Cleo, how tall are you?
I don't have the technical capability to sabotage a plane.
How hard can it be? You take a hammer and you hit things.